The effect is under Effect, Vranos, Composite Brush. Starting with troubleshooting, a lot of people click this and try to select a color, and it does absolutely nothing. To select colors, click and drag to select colors, Alt-click and drag to deselect colors. So here's the click and drag. Here's the Alt-click and drag. This transfer mode color is the color you're actually changing your selection to. Another very common issue we get is the After Effects UI has to be turned on. Take a look down here where my mouse is. I'm hitting Control-Shift-H on Windows, Command-Shift-H on Mac. Then you'll just click and drag and move around the footage and not actually be able to select anything. So make sure that's on. There are many different transfer modes, however these are written out on the website aescripts.com/compositebrush, so we won't go too far into detail with them. However, we will talk about HSV Color because it's a transfer mode that's not in After Effects or any other software. The way that it works is it copies the hue, and then it multiplies by the saturation of the transfer mode color and the brightness of the transfer mode color, except it multiplies by 2. So at 50%, it's doing nothing for saturation and brightness. At 100%, it's going to become double saturated or double bright. At 0%, it's all the way down. The matte type is the most important thing to pay attention to in Composite Brush. Whenever possible, use the hard matte type because it's the fastest. Here's an example. However, when there's a lot of contrast, you might get a slightly harder edge, in which case you should move to medium. Medium requires more brush data than hard, however it will get a much softer fall off. Don't use the soft mode that's been deprecated and replaced by Hair 1.3 and Hair 1.4. Hair 1.3 and Hair 1.4 are slightly different, and in most cases you'll want to use Hair 1.4, but there are still some situations where you'll want to use Hair 1.3. The one thing they have in common is you can only key one color using these. For some context, hard and medium mode, you can select any combination of colors. So right now I'm selecting black, and maybe I'll also select the skin tones here, and then I'll Alt-select the sky. Or I'll select the sky, and then I'll Alt-select the skin tones. The hard and medium modes work with any combination of colors, it really doesn't matter. Just click and drag anywhere. If you had to key a green screen with blue tracking markers, you could do that using the same key using the hard or medium mode. Hair 1.3 and Hair 1.4 are slightly different. Both of these are designed to key only one background color. With Hair 1.3, you're only allowed one single click on the background, and then you can Alt-click as many times as you want, and it's going to generate an extremely soft fall-off, to the point where it actually doesn't even fully remove the color that you clicked on. You have to clamp that out using this matte high level. It gives a lot of extra latitude, that way when you're looking in at this fine hair detail, you make sure that you don't lose anything, bringing it just down to as far as you need to make sure that all that hair detail is preserved. That being said, this is probably more of a rare situation where you would need that much detail. So what we've done is we've made Hair 1.4, which is a little bit easier. So with Hair 1.3, you can't have multiple clicks of the background color, or it's going to break it and do strange things. This is just the limitation of how we designed it, so I'm just going to hit undo for that. Hair 1.4, I'll just go and reset that matte high level back up. And you can click around and wipe those out, and everything should work just fine. So Hair 1.4 is probably much easier to use, but Hair 1.3 could still possibly be useful in some extreme situations. We haven't really found any situations yet where Hair 1.3 has outperformed Hair 1.4, but we're going to keep it in the software because some people already have projects using Hair 1.3, and it would be inconsiderate of us to take out a mode that was already working, and then people would have to go back and tweak their composites and tweak their matte high level to get the same results as they had already done, just because they upgraded the software. So we're keeping both, but please just use 1.4. To explain matte high and matte low level, I'm actually going to get somewhat of an incomplete key here. I'll just click once on here, and then Alt-click. And actually, I'd rather not fill in this whole dog just for this example. And let's look at the alpha channel. So the matte high level is going to clamp the background, and the matte low level is going to clamp the foreground. This is obviously not an ideal key, but that's just what these controls do. Matte blur does exactly what you would expect. It just blurs this matte. Matte choke does a matte choke, just like in After Effects. You can expand or you can contract the matte. The hard matte gamma slightly changes the hardness or softness in the hard mode. However, I would probably just recommend using the medium mode if you're having any issues with softness, because the medium mode tends to just do a much better job than hard anyway, at the expense of a little bit of speed. Matte invert just inverts the selection. And delete all brush data deletes the brush data without changing any of these settings. So for example, if for whatever reason I found this wonderful setting and I decided I wanted this shirt to be glowing a nasty puke green color, however I decided I didn't want to select the shirt, I wanted to select something different instead, I could keep all of these settings how they are, click delete all brush data, and then click and drag over the new selection. So if you found settings that you like here, delete all brush data can be advantageous to pressing reset. But really where this might come in handy is if you have this effect and you want to apply it to multiple different shots with these same settings, but you want to select different parts of different shots. The last control to look at is precision. So when precision is at 100%, Composite Brush will look at every single color that you click and drag, and it will try to pull a key different. So if I'm going to key this part of the background here, and then I'll just click and drag over here, I can alt-click and drag this part of the background, and it's going to do its best to work out a key to select this and not select that. And the more I alt-click and drag, the closer these colors get to each other with a less soft fall-off. By default, we have this set to 100% in case you have to key an extremely hard matte. However, in practice, this works better at a lower number sometimes. So let's say, for example, I decided I didn't want to key this part of the background, and now I start alt-clicking around here. Well, it's going to be difficult to select these colors because these colors are being remembered as being clicked on, not alt-clicked on. So I'd have to do a real lot of alt-clicking to get rid of those. This is where precision comes in. If I take this precision and I set it down to something like 95%, now when I alt-click, it's going to look at all the colors within 5% of the color that I'm clicking, and if there's contrary data there, meaning an alt-click where I'm putting a click, or a click where I'm putting an alt-click, it will simply wipe out the conflicting data. So I'm going to click, and notice how that softens up the key a lot, and allows me to remove that data and replace it. My general recommendation would be to start with a precision of 100%, but if you feel like your key is a little bit too hard, I'd set the precision lower, maybe about 95%, and then just start clicking and dragging and repainting over the shot. And Composite Brush will simplify its dataset, eliminating contrary selections that are too similar to each other, therefore softening your key. For more in-depth tutorials, check out aescripts.com/compositebrush.